What up, Sauce Gang? And today we're going to be reviewing one of my favorite games of all time, which is Mario & Luigi Bowser's Inside Story. And it's a game I happen to hold very personally to me, as it was the first game I can remember where I was sitting on my couch, or I guess the family couch, and an advertisement came on the television for it, and I was completely enthralled, and I wanted this game so bad. I couldn't tell you how old I was. I was a youngin'. I was probably like 6 or 7. And, well, I just pointed at the screen and told my mom, hey, you need to buy me that game. And I don't know if it was for my birthday, or if it was for some other reason, or if maybe my mom was just feeling nice that day. She went and got that game, and so it has just been attached to me for a very long time, and my childhood best friend from long ago also had the same game, and we played through it at the same time. And so I just really wanted to talk about this game, and it's got a lot of cool environments, and it's got really good music, and I just really like this game. And I'd also like to give a shout out to AntDude. I know it's not much of a shout out because I'm a smaller channel, but I am using his footage for any of the live gameplay for this because I just don't have a full recording of this game laying around. Just brief examples, and yeah. So first we're going to start with the story, and I'm not going to go too in-depth with the story, but I am just going to go over some of the main beats of the story, and later on in the video I will discuss boss battles and the final boss and its outcome. I'm sure you probably know. But the start of the story starts out with the toads get infected with this thing called the blorbs. I believe that's how you say it. And it's where they swell up and they get really fat. And basically it's a crisis in the Mushroom Kingdom, and they're having like this whole meeting and everything, and they just talk about, oh, well, how can we fix this or whatever, and you know, what do you know, Bowser shows up, and the bros have to fight Bowser, and this serves as the game's tutorial. And well, I might as well get into some of the game mechanics now, but the game is an RPG story game, so it's top down, and whenever you get into combat, it's turn-based combat, and it's a very good combat system. I won't get too in-depth into that right now, but the bros and Bowser, they fight, and you can guess who wins, the bros, and Bowser gets all pity and has to go off and do whatever, and then they continue their meeting. But Bowser happens to run into a character that, if you've played the Mario & Luigi games before, you'll be familiar with. His name is Fawful. If you haven't before, like whenever I first got this game, I had no idea who he was, so he was just this guy whose name was Awful with an F. And he gives Bowser this mushroom that allows him to inhale things like people and buildings and like a lot of other things. And so Bowser goes and does what he would logically do, and he goes and gives Mario and Luigi this big old suck, and he sucks everyone in. And so he inhales the whole Mario and the gang, and inside Bowser, after they're inhaled, the game actually plays on the 2D perspective, and you start out with just Mario, which you use the A button to control, and you go find Luigi, who is just down pretty much right about where Mario gets sucked up at. And after they meet up, you find the princess. Bowser ends up waking up. He doesn't remember that he inhaled everybody. He doesn't remember that. So he'll hear like the bros and other voices from his body, and he doesn't know that it's them. So he just is hearing these voices, and he's just kind of cool with it, which it's a cool perspective to see Bowser get friendly with the Mario brothers and the other members and stuff without him really knowing it's them. And so this is where the interesting part of the plot comes in. That Fawful basically did this to Bowser so he can take over Bowser's gig. He takes his whole deal and takes his castle, and he also tries to take the Mushroom Kingdom, and he's trying to harness the power of this, it's like a dark star, or it's something encapsulating the dark star. It's been a long time since I've played the game. I'd highly recommend you just play through the game yourself. I won't get too deep into spoiler territory. That's pretty much all I'm going to talk about for the story, in fact. It's a pretty straightforward story, but it has a lot more depth than I gave to it. And the writing in this game is very top-notch. It's got very witty writing. It's very funny. And now I'd like to talk about the gameplay. So the first part about game mechanics that I would like to discuss is the combat. And like I said earlier, the combat is turn-based. And with your turn-based combat, you have a few different types of moves, and your first moves that I would like to talk about are your standard moves. You have your good old jump, then you have your hammer, which you obtain a little bit later. I think there's a couple other ones that you get that are just a standard attack, but I can't really remember them off the top of my head. Then there's a second category of combat, which is your special attacks. There are a variety of special attacks that you get by collecting these attack pieces, and they allow you to do these special moves that usually involve rhythm with Mario and Luigi, but with Bowser they involve the touchscreen. And instead of getting attack pieces with Bowser, you actually just free some of Bowser's minions that he had stranded in in cages. They're stranded around in cages that Thoughtful had put around the world, so you break them free and then they're like, oh yeah, we'll do whatever for you. And now I'd like to talk about the leveling system, which there are quite a bit of things in the leveling system. You have things like your POW, which is your power, and your defense. You have your speed. You have you have all your standard stuff. Then you have stash, or horn. It's called horn for Bowser, which is your luck level. And I think it's like bartering as well. I think you get better prices. So it's a generally useful item. Or generally useful stat to level up. It's really the only one that's not self-explanatory. It's super satisfying to level up. And quite frankly, if you're not only grinding and leveling up that power, I mean, if you want to beat the game, just level up your power over and over again. That's all I'm saying. Another combat mechanic, or RPG mechanic rather, that I really liked was the badges. And these badges, basically, Mario has a badge and Luigi has a badge. And each of them have their own benefits. Like it might be like 15% higher power, or one might be like 20% like less special point cost or whatever. And there are a lot of badges. I forget how many there are. There's probably like 15 or 30 or I don't know. I couldn't give you a number. I haven't played the game personally in about 3 years. It's been about 3 years since I beat it, but I've played the game many other times. I just can't really, I don't really have the time to sit down and play through the whole game right now, unfortunately. And then another game mechanic, which this isn't an RPG mechanic, this is rather a general mechanic, is there are some gimmicks which aren't bad. I don't think they're bad at all. There are touchscreen gimmicks where you're like breaking down carrots inside of Bowser, and there's another one where you're like, Mario and Luigi are like tethered together and they're bouncing back and forth, and that's a rhythm-based game with the A and B buttons. And there's another form of gimmick which is leading into our next topic, boss battles. We have regular boss battles, which are, they're just beefed up, tanked up enemies. They don't just look like the normal ones. They have some really cool designs. Personal favorite would probably be the boss from Black Beach, or that little worm thing. Not the worm, but like that big insect grub thing that's on it. That's on his like fire tube. I don't know, I'll have to show you a picture. But those were cool bosses and they had some really cool mechanics. I think also that there were like these... There were a lot of cool memorable bosses. These dudes that looked like pixel pieces. There were these red and green. They looked like cells, and they were all stitched together, and only Mario could hit certain ones and Luigi could hit the other ones, and that boss was super memorable. And then there's the gimmick bosses, which is where you take the DS and you rotate it horizontally and you fight it with the touchscreen, which I enjoy. And you also use the microphone and such, but they are mediocre. I'll agree, they aren't necessarily the best, but it's a cool way to use the hardware. And lastly, we have the final boss, which quite honestly is a great final boss. And some people may say it's a cliche for the last boss fight to be Bowser, like a darker, stronger version of Bowser, but it's executed extremely well. The music is extremely, like, it's just very epic. It's this cool battle. It's not like a huge difficulty spike like with the previous games, and it's just executed very, very well. And the music, my god, the music in this game is so good that I remixed 10 of the game's soundtracks together and put them on my channel. And that's another reason why I'm making this video. I really, really enjoy this game, and I really, really enjoy this franchise and all it has to offer. And while we're going down memory lane, we might as well talk about the areas. Alright, so the first area in the game that I'm going to talk about, and it's really a variety of areas, is just inside of Bowser. I'm just covering that as a whole. There are many different areas that you can go to, and you know, on the bottom touchscreen you can see like right about where inside of Bowser those are and things like that. So you can kind of get a pretty good idea of what they look like. Areas where there's bones, you better believe there's bones. If you drinking water, it's flooded. Are you in the stomach? There's carrots. So, you know, it's pretty... It's really cool to see these alien environments that also, keep in mind, have a different soundtrack than the above world. Like, when you're playing as Bowser, the soundtrack is different. And so when you're inside Bowser, they're more alien and they're more subdued. And I think it puts a cool spin on the other soundtracks. And the next area I would like to talk about, I don't know why I have a brain freeze there, is KV Cape, which is the first area where Bowser wakes up in. It has some incredible music, and it just has some fun enemies. You got some fat Goomba boys, you've got... like, there's a few different enemies there, I can't really remember that many. But it's a really cool level, it's got great music. The next level, which is burned into my brain, and I think is my personal favorite, just in general, is Plaque Beach. It's a beach made out of teeth. Plaque Beach, it's a great name. It's got so much character. When you're there as Bowser, you get to talk to the blocky French people and their dog and his wife that's really odd, and it's just so great. Then whenever you get to go there as the Mario Brothers, you can explore like the cliffs and all that, and it's just so crazy. Like, there's so much more. Plaque Beach is just, I don't know, it's burned into my brain, but I'll get to that later. Then you go up into the Mysterious Woods, which I couldn't remember the name of them for the life of me, and I can't really think to look it up. But it was a nice enough level. That's where you get, I believe, the Goomba power up for Bowser, which is where you like tap the touchscreen to spit fire out of the Goombas. And that's also where you can inhale those little block cat things to give back to the French people as Bowser. To give back to the French people. But yeah, it's a nice enough level, and that's also, I believe, where the first, right at the end of that is the very first gimmick boss, where you flip the thing horizontal. After that we have the Flowery Fields, which I also can't remember the name of, which is fields with sunflowers, and in my opinion is the most forgettable of the whole game. I think it's the most forgettable area. Well, second only to the lake. I probably would be more memorable if I just played through the game again, but after doing the soundtrack, like going through it, I completely forgot about that lake level. I had no memory of it at all. I remembered those flowery fields, and that generic music, and those sunflower demon monsters, but I did not remember the lake. And then we have Bowser's Castle, which has, in my opinion, some of the best music just in the game. It just slaps, the Bowser's Stolen Castle track. It just has a real nice dark theme to it, and how it has Bowser's like essence all throughout the building, but it's Fawful's new castle, and you can talk to all the, you can talk to everybody there, all his henchmen and stuff, and it's just a really cool environment. Then you have Toad Town, which is Toad Town. There's mushroom houses, and there's mushroom people, and there's a mushroom. Yeah, it's alright. And then a couple other areas of note I have are the mines, which are between KB Cape and Toad Town, I believe. And there's those Goombas that are like coal powered, and I thought that was an interesting place and had a couple cool gimmicks like with those bombs. And then there was pretty much that walkway between the mines where basically where Mario, no, not the walkway between the mines, but whenever Mario first is capable of leaving Bowser, that whole back area that he has to walk through in order to get to like the back of Toad Town, that area was really memorable. So yeah, that's about it for the areas. Alright, so this is going to conclude the video, and I pretty much just wanted to talk about in the end about how well I think this game is kind of aged. I think it's aged really well. I think the pixel art style looks well, I think the writing is well, there is some leet speak, I'm not sure how well that's aged, but I think the game overall is aged pretty well. It's very fun to play, it's got some fun mechanics, it's got good music, etc. Its legacy, I think it's the best in its franchise. I don't think they'll make a game that can top it. It's just so good. It's lightning in a bottle. And it's really difficult to explain it. And I don't know if it's just because I miss like how things used to be whenever I was a child or when we were children. I don't know if that's why this game is kind of looked at like that. It's the best of the bunch for sure, but it just brings me back to a simpler time, and it reminds me of just when gaming was about having fun, and whenever I was just playing a game with my best friend all those years ago, and it was just a good time. And I don't know if it's that I miss the game or if I miss old times, and that's about it. See ya.